Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good day. Welcome to our Big Book 12-Step Workshop. The finale, as they say, in a series. Please join me in prayer. You'll observe in the PowerPoints both structural and word changes throughout the evening. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps, and you, for an open mind and a new experience with myself, my unmanageability, the 12 steps, and especially you. Please join me in the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can. And wisdom to know the difference. Well, it's been quite a journey and quite a robust group. I just am so pleased to have been your companion on this journey. I'm going to teach a little bit, but I wanted to just open it up with comments about that. It's actually been a really, yes, I came here as your guide and teacher, but you clearly were my teacher in many cases. I could, but I won't list the areas of the expansion of my own consciousness as the result of your very robust sharing of experiences and your personal lives and journeys. So I really do, probably more so than I've ever experienced in the 25 years that I've been doing these workshops. Part of it, of course, is the change in the whole approach with the COVID-driven Zoom emphasis, and then the change to the Tuesday and then the Monday reinforcement of the workshop. That's 2 whole nights dedicated to this process during this entire year. So that probably had something to do with my own personal experience, a broader, deeper commitment than I've made to any other workshop. And and perhaps the change in the approach also, using the steps 12, 11, and 10 at the beginning to set you all up to have some tools to perhaps make this a more powerful experience, because you're more connected to power if you adopted those recommendations. All right, so I talk about the way of life. You'll note that I changed the way the title is even presented, because I really want to emphasize the way. This is the path that Bill Wilson and the people who helped him write the big book had laid out. Bill calls it our way of life. In step 10, as he brings us out of step 9, he says, we have entered the world of the spirit. We commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. And at least by some type of word count from my publisher, who can do that on his computer, Bill uses the term way of life 20 different times to refer to this program of living, not the program of recovery, the program of living. In contrast, addiction is the program of recovery, steps 1 through 9. Unmanageability is the program of life, our way of life, 10, 11, and 12. And of course, we took a look deeply at the very beginning of the workshop, and then even deeper on, by my standards anyway, at the end, as we were finishing up the workshop on step 10, to using the words from the St. Francis prayer, which we've used consistently. Quite frankly, I think for the first time this year, I've used it consistently to close the workshop. I'm very pleased with that. It's a wonder. It takes a little longer, but it's so worth it because it just reminds us of the journey from the bedevilments to the promises, the journey from the darkness to the light. And of course, he uses the term, St. Francis didn't actually write the prayer. As you know, it was written in the 18th century. St. Francis was walking this earth around the 12th century. So somebody incorporated his spirit and his operating principles and created that wonderful poem, which is a prayer. And he uses the word channel. I just have adopted it. That's who we are. Each one of us is a channel of life at the very least. A channel of grace and a channel of God and a channel of light and a channel of power. And we need to keep that channel clear. That's what step 10 is. Bill also gives us a suggestion to continue using inventory at night as part of step 11. As you know, my most favorite part is the morning upon awakening, because we're asking for guidance and we're building a relationship. Listen to the step itself. To improve my consciousness, my interpretation. It keeps it really clean as a human practice to develop our humanity. Improve our consciousness. The words, of course, are literally improve our conscious contact with God. It would be, I think, a really healthy translation to say improve our conscious contact with power, with energy, with life, with light. And then to allow that channel to overflow literally and to seep out in our own wounds and brokenness so that we can be useful. You'll note step 12, a new word that I'm using there, and I put it in all caps. And I say that because I believe the big book and the 12-step culture emphasizes the very practical application that when all else fails, help somebody. Usefulness. I believe it's actually more important than any other of the suggestions. Keeping in mind, of course, the balance. You can't give away what you've got. And what you've got is a clean and powerful channel because of your inventory and your meditation. The promise of the 12th step is an awakening, again, emphasizing the awakening, all caps. That's the essence of step 12, the promise of step 12, the singular focus of step 12. It sounds esoteric or mysterious, and we know it's not because we've looked at Appendix 2. We've had many conversations about what it is. I started out our workshop in January, the very second gathering that we had, talking about it because it's the vision, it's the purpose, it's the promise. This is why we do it. We don't do it because we're an addict or an alcoholic or any other form of deformity. We don't do it because of that. We do it because we want to change through having a relationship with light in order to dissipate the darkness. A change in the way we think and feel and behave. That's pretty comprehensive. That covers the entire gamut of what constitutes us as human beings. Our mind, our emotions, our will, our entire life. It's done to us, not by us, but as we've repeated endlessly, not without us. That combination of grace and willingness. There's the mystery. The X plus factor. I've never made an effort with you to explain it. No, I stop right there. I say it's a mystery. I can't explain it. It's not explainable. It's way beyond our finite and material ability. But I've used this model regularly. It's becoming actually much more organically part of me, becoming a lantern, each one of us in our own way, becoming a lantern. A lantern for what purpose? Who's coming to help them? No, this is an invitation now. This is a question for each one of you. Each one of you has a fingerprint. It's unique. There never has been, there currently isn't, and there never will be a fingerprint like yours to duplicate it. That's why they use it as a form of identification. And today, with the sophistication that we have, they're using DNA. There never has, there currently isn't, and there never will be a person with your DNA, which includes your entire life. It's a very unique combination. And as a result, you have very unique competencies and assets to be able to help somebody. We are the one they are waiting for. It may not be a they, it may be one person, and it may be two, and it may be 2,000, and you won't know, and you will never know. Because as a lantern, you don't get feedback. You just provide light on the path. We are the one they are waiting for, lighting the path for others. But again, you can't give away what you don't have. We become a lantern in order to light the path, not to feel good, but to have freedom. This is our way of life. Life itself, it's a practice. I've come to that term, practice for life, this year. I never had it before. I don't believe I had it before that. I talked about practicing meditation and practicing principles. But as I dialogued with you and prayed and meditated in preparation to be effective, it occurred to you, well, oh my gosh, we're in a practice of life. It takes so much out of the perfectionism, which I've made regular comments about, out of our lives, or at least it gives us an opportunity to reduce it. Because we're in relationship. Spirituality, I mentioned, the definition, for me, has nothing to do with the traditional concepts in the way they've been used in religious conversations, or in romance novels, or even in psychology. I've talked about, gently and lightly, unconditional. I don't even know what it means because I'm conditional, and we all are as human beings. But I believe whatever that is that we choose to call God is unconditional. It has only one dynamic. It has always been. And it always will be. Whatever it is, we can't understand that. We can mouth it. In the Hebrew scripture, there was an epiphany. There was an experience, a spiritual experience in which this voice said, I am who am. And scholars have been wrestling with the content and the meaning of that. I is. It's the isness of this reality. And that's why the present moment is the only moment where life takes place. The past is history. The future is mystery. Yes, it was poetic. It was intended to be. The present moment, however, is the moment that we live in. I speculated in a reflection that you may have received and read, God is consciousness. And therefore, we can relate to it as the image and likeness of this that created us. And our single attribute that makes us human is our consciousness. And Bill connects us to it in step 12 to awaken to that consciousness. And he connects it to us in step 11 by saying every day we need to improve that consciousness. It's phenomenal, organic connection and very integrated. And as we become more conscious, we become more connected. These are the two terms that Bob used in his final talk, Bob Smith, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, in his final talk. He said, keep it simple. Don't complicate it. There's only really two principles here, love and service. And I've said, I use step 11 and 12, and the image I use is a coin having two sides. Completely integrated, they can't be separated. This is this, I believe, is the origin of the question, which is not a superficial or silly question. It's a challenging question, but it's a very mystical question. Are we human beings seeking a human experience, a spiritual experience, or are we spiritual beings seeking a human experience? And I've said my answer after many months of meditation and writing, my answer is yes, that's right. Two sides of a coin, but one reality. This is our practice. Bill says it, I believe, in a vision for you. We didn't spend much time on it. I hope you do. A vision for you. We keep our head in the clouds. I see that as step 11. And of course, you know that Bill said that inventory and meditation go hand in glove so that you can keep the channel clear so that the light can shine brightly in you, to you, and then eventually through you, and you keep your feet on the ground. A wonderful image. Again, of this way of life, our practice, a daily practice, as I've emphasized. I hope you've heard, I hope you're motivated, I hope you're incorporating it as part of your commitment and part of your accountability plan daily. I don't mean in any type of wrestle it to the ground. No. This is very gentle. There's no violence here. Very gentle, lean into it. Show up, do the best you can, knowing it's not the best you can, doing it anyway, accepting the results. If you don't like the results that you're getting, change your motivation, change your behavior, change the information. Change something, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you don't like the outcome of your life and or your behavior, change something. I've mentioned many times that I've done a very diligent and lengthy study of happiness about 5 years ago in preparation for an event that I was asked to do. And there's a plethora of books. I read about 10 that captured the thinking of and what's the right word? Evaluation of happiness by scientists and psychologists and philosophers and theology specialists, theologians. Critical studies, statistically significant studies, evidence-based, and then some just philosophical and theological speculation based on history and their practice and their experience. The summary of everyone was the same. They didn't say it this way, but as I distilled it out, because I had heard a long time ago Dennis Prager give a series on, recorded series on, he's a I believe, a rabbi and a very charismatic, brilliant, educated, articulate man, a spiritual teacher, a humanities teacher. And he concluded it this way. So I did approach these books with that lens. And that is, he says, anybody who wants to be happy, that's their goal, will never be happy. Oh my gosh, that's in your face. He said, because happiness is not a product, it's a byproduct. It's a byproduct of my relationship with a meaning broader than myself. Now, that's very subject to interpretation. But hear it, a relationship with a meaning broader than myself. Well, of course, I relate that to step 11. And the second component is a contribution to the people around us, a contribution to humanity. And I related that, of course, to step 12. And every study I read, in some way or another, concluded with the same. If you want to be happy, you need to have a commitment to consciousness. This is what makes us specifically human. One of the suggestions in each of the material that I read, in some fashion, I put it in my words and words that we'll understand and we've heard many times before. Please use the set-aside attitude here, a gratitude list. And I've mentioned that my interpretation of that is that have one, if it fits into your schema of things that you want to do or that you feel would be practical and helpful, that you make, you have a little journal, and every morning, before or after your prayer meditation practice, that you add one item that you're grateful for. Just one, please, only one. But then the rule is that you can never repeat that one again. Well, now there's the challenge after 90 or 120 days where you've got 90 or 120 different words in there and you're searching for a new word. Guess what happens? You're looking through eyes of positivity at your life because you're trying to find out a new word to put on the list that you're grateful for today. And it will be, I hope, you'll keep a sense of humor. I feel really grateful today that I was able to digest my lunch. Nothing I have control over other than what I put in there. That was just an example, and an example with a little humor in it, I hope. And of course, prayer. 6 and 7, I hope you really heard my experience with that, steps 6 and 7. I had as powerful experience with those two very tiny little steps in the sense of what's contained in the big book, 2 different paragraphs on page 76, than I had with any other step. Because I learned that I can pray because I'm powerless and I can hold myself accountable. That's not in the big book. But that formula began to become the fine sandpaper that reduces the character defects du jour so that I'm a progressively better human being. And meditation, which is my most favorite topic, especially the morning practice, as most of you know, and I've said. For guidance, there's an open mic someplace. Can we close it? For guidance, that's the whole point. And Bill captures it in the step itself. Pay attention to the way the steps are articulated. I think you've gotten that from my own modeling. sought through prayer and meditation. That's just the warm-up. That's who we are, seekers, and the tools are prayer and meditation. Prayer is when we're asking, meditation is when we're listening. To improve our conscious contact. That's it. To improve our conscious contact with power. Of course, continuing to pray for knowledge, because we don't know better until we know better. And just because we know better doesn't mean that we do better, because we have this dynamic in us of the mind that thinks and the will that decides to take action. And sometimes they're not very effectively connected, because I had a practice of knowing better, but not doing better. In many instances, I didn't know better. There's nothing I can do about that other than expose myself to better information and better teachers. But the power to do it, I had a mind-blowing experience my third time through the step work, when in fact the curtain was pulled back. And I saw the bedevilments. And I saw more deeply than I had before, that I had principles that I ignored, and I didn't have principles that, as a decent human being, I would want to have. And then finally, acts of loving kindness are the terms I use. I've adopted that from the Buddhist literature. I've made mention of Ram Shapiro's book called Loving Kindness. He's a Jewish rabbi practicing Buddhism in a 12-step program. And he wrote this book. He also wrote a book on the 12 steps from his own perspective, and perhaps with the lens of that rabbinic tradition. I don't know that for a fact. I've read the book. It's an excellent book. But the real point is helping that second component of the promise of happiness. The first component is to have a relationship with meaning. Does your life have meaning? Does your life have a context? What's the value proposition? What's your philosophical understanding of life? And then a contribution to the people around us, to the humanity. In our immediate, it could just be our family, or it could be, in addition, could be our work or our neighborhood, or if in fact we have a religious tradition into that community, or in a 12-step community. But I keep it broad, like the big book and the 12-step culture suggests, all inclusive, never exclusive. But of course, and I have really emphasized it, I hope you've heard it and you've agreed to accept that. Accountability is the key. It was for me. Having a sponsor, having a step guide, having a therapist, having a spiritual director, etc., 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 all the variations in the varieties of our life. To be accountable, not to all of them in everything, but to each of them in something. So I reread chapter 12, step 12, from the 12 and 12 over the weekend. And if you have, it's the longest of the step commentaries. And if you haven't read it, at some point, do yourself a favor, perhaps by the end of the year, to read it and highlight it. It's just really inspirational. But the main theme he has is the joy of living. Notice I put joy in all caps. it's a synonym for our way of living, but the whole purpose is joy. Not just happiness, but really joy, by keeping our head in the clouds and our feet on the ground. He has a summary in the big book, In a Vision for You, which you've seen in different ways. I'm calling it the 12 Steps to Spirituality, and I use the word spirituality as a synonym for relationship. That circle with a triangle in it that represents the circle, the symbol of the infinite power or light or life or God as we don't understand it. And he suggests, Bill does, the big book suggests that we trust. Trust that, whatever it is. It's all caps here. And that we clean the channel. Steps 4 through 9 are the roto-rooter of our soul, to keep it clean and to clean the lens. And then steps 10 and 11, more inventory, because we want to keep the lens clean so that the light can shine through us to the community around us. That triangle in the middle, a symbol of the human being, the individual. The Al-Anons took the symbol, as I've mentioned in another commentary someplace, and they reversed it. They put the circle inside the triangle. And I made the comment using $100 words that it represents transcendence and immanence. Transcendence, the infinity of this reality. And Bill talked about it, in contemplation of all. And immanence, the sunlight of the spirit, underlying the, I've lost the phrase now. But everything, basically. Immanence. That is, the spirit is the center of all reality. And then to help others. Bill has different words in the big book, but I've translated them into words for this very commentary. Trust God, clean the channel, help others. This is our way of life, the path again that we walk. In the concepts, I'll be doing a monthly workshop on the traditions next year, January through June. And then July through December, I'll be doing a monthly workshop on the concepts. At least a touch on them, not a deep dive like we've done with the steps, but at least we'll become acquainted with the general operating principles and understanding the dynamic of it and the purpose of it, the value of it for our own personal lives, not just for the unity of AA or the operating, that's the traditions, or the operating of a nonprofit spiritual organization, which are the concepts, but the application of them to our personal lives as spiritual principles. And in that manual on the concepts, he has this phrase, freedom. Freedom under God to grow in God's image and likeness will ever be the quest of Alcoholics Anonymous. Our freedom to serve is truly the freedom by which we have our being, the freedom in which we have our being. It might take some time to appreciate that. But the whole point of it, if you look at the structure and the words, is freedom, and they're all capitalized. This is my purpose. That's not the way they are in the material. But for my purposes, that's the summary of our journey from a purpose standpoint. Freedom from our addiction. That's how it starts out, of course. That was the whole origin of this effort by Bill and Bob. Freedom from addiction. But Bill had that wonderful insight as he wrote the big book that addiction's not the problem. Addiction's a problem. It's not the problem. So freedom from addiction is good, but freedom from unmanageability, freedom from our human condition on our own power is really the key. And he says we're not cured, we have a daily reprieve, and we will have freedom as long as we work for it. The promises, he says on page 84, will always manifest if we work for them. This thought brings us to step 10. This thought brings us to step 11. This thought brings us to step 12. That's the work. That's the work of living. That's the work of managing our lives. Freedom. Certainly freedom from addiction. What a treasure that is. What a mystery it is. It was the suffering that brought us to the 12-step rooms. It was our suffering, even in the 12-step rooms, that brought us into and through the steps. Nobody does this because it's a good idea. At least most people are doing it because they want to reduce the pain, the suffering. The same kind of comments with unmanageability. Alcoholics Anonymous has a pamphlet called The Dry Drunk Syndrome. You might be free of your addiction. You might have a year or a decade or more of abstinence, and yet you're restless, irritable, and discontent. Restless, irritable, and discontent. Because life isn't fair. I'm not getting my needs met. Yeah, there's lots of fill in the blanks on that one. I need more power to make better choices, to have more understanding, to take more healthy and effective actions. And through a variety of efforts, dead ends and dark valleys and frustrations, we find that we can't do it. It's not a self-help program. It's a program in which we have to admit and accept and concede our own helplessness in that sense, but at the same time, completely accept our responsibility to take some action. And that's the mystery that we talk about. Willingness and grace, grace and willingness. And the bottom line question is, how free do you want to be from your addiction? Certainly that's not even a trick question. The real trick question is with regard to unmanageability. We are empowered. We are given power to manage our lives as long as we walk hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. The line from the 5th step promises. All right. So I'm going to invite you now to dialogue about anything I said now, but also about your commitment and your accountability, and especially, which might be more inspirational for each of us, is your experience with this journey this year with the steps and the workshop and etc. Then about 10 to 9, it's relative. I mean, it's gentle. I'm not saying it's right on the dot, but right around that time, I'm going to read a meditation, which I think really captures the spirit of this. And I end all of my major significant events with this meditation, which was given to me by my own spiritual director probably 30 years ago at a retreat I attended with him. And it's called A Chinese Legend. It's in the Way of Life document, so it's probably not new information to you, but if you're new to me and my workshops, you've probably never heard me read it as a meditation before, and that might have some benefit to you. It's a nice way to conclude our time together.
My step guide has approved of my making amends to this person. What is your recommendation of how many times do you leave a voicemail or an email to contact and try to make amends? Do you have guidelines? Are
you asking academically, or have you been frustrated in your effort to outreach?
Both. Academically, I'm not positive 100% this is really him. I got the information from the internet. It matches exactly.
I see.
So I have left.
Go ahead.
I've left 2 voicemails and 1 email.
Yeah.
What do you recommend further trying to attempt to make amends?
No, none with regard to that. If you could get a mailing address, I would recommend writing a letter that, if you feel that you want to pursue it, writing a letter that captures the essence of what it is you want to say, and send it. But no more emails, no more voicemails. You know, if he wants to respond, he will, if it's him. And if he doesn't respond, you have your answer from that standpoint. But if there's a way that you can confirm his postal mailing address, then you could send a letter.
Okay. I did capture an address. Still not sure if it's him, but I can give it a try.
Well, all right. So that then changes my recommendation, because you don't want to be writing a long letter to somebody who you are not convinced is in fact the person. So what you'd want to do is write a very short letter saying who you are and why you want to get in touch. Short, 1 sentence, 2 sentences, 3 sentences. And if he is interested, he's to contact you whatever way you want, and then send a letter. And if you don't hear, you're done from that standpoint. Now, if you don't hear, my sense is you're done with the formal part of it, but I would recommend that you create some type of a prayer practice for that person's healing, whether that be 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, each day, whatever, but have a commitment to yourself as something that you will do on a spiritual plane. And then when you're done, you're done. Because that gave me a sense of closure. Just sending a letter and not hearing back, or making a phone call and not getting a return, or sending an email today and not getting return, that leaves me without a sense of closure.
Okay.
So for me, my daughter says I have closure issues, but anyway, for me, the closure is a spiritual practice. And so I was able to, for people I couldn't find, or people I shouldn't find, or people who wouldn't respond, I was able to bring it to closure because I created my own ritual of a prayer practice. And then I know I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good advice. Thank you.
Well, it's based on experience, and I have finished my amends 4 different times, the 4 times I did the steps out of the big book, and I'm free.
Yeah.
I live in freedom.
I want to be free.
Yes, you do. Yeah. Thanks. Well, I'm so glad that you asked it that way, because I think that I've added a dimension to my explanation that may not have been in other explanations. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Now, you did the workshop
In 2004 was my first time taking your
almost
workshop.
20 years ago.
It
Okay.
was almost 20 years. Yeah, actually, it was funny because I was new again in AA after having been in AA for 20 years. I was starting over in 2004.
Oh, wow.
And so, and the person who told me to come to your workshop never came back after that first time, but I did.
Yeah.
And I had a remarkable spiritual awakening that year. It was
Yeah.
really quite tremendous.
I
And
actually remember you from that workshop, because you really were rigorous and and you stood up. I mean, you participated. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I remember you had your 4th step workshop at the retreat center, and I actually quit smoking because of that. I didn't know you could smoke there, and so I really wanted to quit anyways. So anyways, that was really cool, the 4-step workshop. And then since that time, I've done the workshop again a couple more times. And fast forward to 2021, someone told me that you were doing a deeper dive than you've ever done. And I'm a certified herbophile. For real, big time. And I feel like I'm among my friends here, because a lot of people love you as much as I do.
Thank you.
So I started to come in February. I got caught up pretty fast. But I felt like a visitor because I wasn't doing the work. It hadn't been made clear to me that I needed to really do this thing again.
Oh, right.
And until I started to feel disturbed about all kinds of stuff, retiring and moving to San Diego in the same month in 2020 was really awesome for over a year, couple years actually. But I started, having interpersonal problems in my marriage and all kinds of stuff. And when I attended the workshop with James Finley, and he talked about childhood trauma, I burst into tears.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I probably needed to get into therapy. So I did. And I'll tell you, I thought all this time that I could solve my problems by doing the steps.
Right.
And you just can't. Some things can't. So anyways, so that's going on. And then it became very clear that I needed to do this whole thing again. And I reached out to you, and I now have a step guide, and I'm planning on being in there in 2022 and really looking forward to it. But the last thing I want to say is this group, you guys, I mean, I've been in this thing for a few times, and this group, you guys are so brave and vulnerable and authentic and deep in, especially the 4th step, the stuff that you guys were doing 4-step resentments about. I'm like, wow, I was blown away, just blown away. I just have to say that I just love this group. So anyways, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for, I didn't mean to derail you at the beginning, but I did want the people to have a context, because I know I know a little bit about your history and your journey. So that's wonderful. And thank you for all of that. And your commitment is now to continue doing the work and using maybe next year's workshops as the fulcrum to pry you open.
I'm going to step up to the plate and be a participant again.
All right. Wonderful, Kathy.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you for this workshop. And the way I'm thanking you is to tell you how I'm going to live my life based on what I've learned here for the last 3 years. First of all, I mean, from being powerless over food, this year I've reached my weight goal. So it's amazing what a great feeling that is. It's so anchoring. And I know that when my food is in check, my life is in check. It's incredible. The other thing that I've gained, or that transformation I'm feeling, is how I have a better relationship with myself.
Yeah.
So the that inner voice, or that nagging feeling, or that overbearing, motherly voice that I had is more gentle. It's more gentle, more accepting, I guess. So it's a relief. I'm relieved, so that's second. The third is, I think this year I really got, what does it mean to be aligned? You talk a lot in your workshops about being aligned with your higher power.
Yeah.
Well, it's very theoretical if you think about it when we say that. But I think what trickled down this year was, well, what does it mean? Like when I'm, making a choice of an action I want to take, or I'm even reacting, like pausing and saying, if I step out, what action should I be taking here? And just that pause, or that space, is giving me time for me to be in better alignment with my higher power. So based on these learnings, I'd like to share what is my manifesto, or my way of life.
Okay.
In every area of my life. So I'm going to read it here. I'm saying, I'm growing into everything I am, or what God created me to be, to inspire others to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
From a work perspective, I create art with my intentions, my skills, and soul for my colleagues and clients, so they can experience excellence in service and ease in getting their work done.
Yeah.
This is about love. I bring joy, playfulness, and presence to my love relationship, so we can co-create a divine dance for life together.
Great.
And this is about health. I nurture and nourish myself exquisitely, so I have the health and energy to be fully engaged in life. And this is about my friendships. I bring new experiences, compassion, and presence to all my friends in the world, so that they know that they matter. This is about learning. I am a lifelong learner that reads, takes action, and teaches, so I can enrich the quality of my life and others. And this is about money. I have a very contentious relationship with money. So money is flowing into my life because I'm a linchpin, share my wealth, and enhance my usefulness to others.
Yeah.
And this is really the last one, is what we've learned here. I'm experiencing full recovery from compulsive overeating and from emotional sobriety, and a spiritual awakening, because I'm consistently improving my conscious contact with my divine feminine power, who's my understanding of my higher power, enhancing my usefulness to others, and developing humility, which makes it possible to receive God's help.
Yeah. Well, very thoughtful and very full in its richness. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm sure some people took pictures of that so that they can, in fact, begin as a platform there, developing their own personal pieces of it that would be practical for them.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Herb. I just wanted to take a moment just to thank you so much for this workshop. It really was an amazing experience. It was a long one, that's for sure. a lot of work, but I'm glad I did it.
It gives a meaning to run the gauntlet.
Yeah. I mean, there was times I didn't think I'd make it, but here I am.
Yeah.
I think as a result, things are just in my life are just so effortless and peaceful right now, you know. It's just so much nicer to live inside of my head, you know, and just the way that I talk to myself and the way that I look at the world. I'm noticing now that my first thoughts towards any sort of phenomena or stimulus in my environment or any event that happens is to try to look for the positive. And not
That's huge.
yeah. Not all the time, but at least 50% of the time, maybe more than 50% of the time, I'm like not just immediately interpreting it as
Yeah,
these
you're
people want to get.
reframing and retraining your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the journey for me this year was to cut through my own BS. Because I think I'd become really adept at lying to myself,
Oh, sure.
or at least with being willing to accept that lie. You know, you go through your life, you're so busy, you don't even want to like get below the surface of it. You just accept whatever the surface, you know, what your ego is telling you on the surface level,
Yeah.
you know. And so I had to look at my own insecurity. I had to finally admit that I do have anxiety and start to deal with that. And then look at the part of myself where I really wasn't sharing I share myself. Always willing to share my intellect or my wisdom, but not financial. So that was an important thing for me to look at this year.
All right.
You know, and I just think, you know, overall, it's just been a huge change. And, you know, I'm growing in all of those areas. And, you know, my relationships with my family, so much better. My relationships with my friends, so much better. And I just, you know, I feel a lot more authentic in the way that I'm communicating with people. And you don't have to like me, and I really don't care anymore, you know.
Well, you care, but you're not attached to it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
meant to say. I'm not
Yeah.
attached.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not flippant, but I'm not attached to it, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, and I think that's really important, because I just think I don't know, I feel happy. So I
Yeah.
wanted to thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can trust it. You can trust it. Now it's not a guaranteed permanent state, because
Right.
it's connected to our emotions. All right. In some degree. But as we achieve more balance, especially that emotional sobriety, as we achieve more emotional sobriety, then in fact, our feelings are not susceptible to so many cycles, or certainly not dramatic cycles, that they're just like fine tuning. Because happiness is a state of awareness. It's not a feeling. And that's why I was struck by Bill Wilson's work in step 12, in the 12 and 12, where he really pounded home that joy of living at the end of the chapter. The joy of living is the theme of the 12-step culture. Nice. I really liked it. So
Yeah. And I guess, you know, that's what my commitment is, to just continue that
right.
10, 11, 12, continue my motivation and dedication towards emotional sobriety. And just, you know, I get it, you know, there's going to be ups and downs, and, you know, there's going to be, you know, it's not always going to be perfect every day, but I feel like as long as I make that commitment and try my best, I'm not going to slip backwards
Right.
dramatically or drastically.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and anyway, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody. It was such an amazing group this year.
Yeah.
And everybody, just like, some meetings I were like, wow, I just would walk away going like, wow, that was just the most powerful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to thank everybody for their honesty, their openness, their vulnerability, their support, and just wish everybody a happy holiday and a happy new year. So thank you.
You know, I took this workshop to change. I've been in 12 steps for so long, and I just felt I was repeating myself and just in a mire. And what I learned about myself, especially with this third and fourth column that you do, that I didn't like what was revealed at all. I mean, I was like,
Right.
I said, I learned that I've been fighting reality all my life.
Yeah.
And that I learned, I learned, you know, I knew I was always a victim, but I learned that I became the victimizer, and you called me a perpetrator. And I was like horrified that I continue the self-abuse sort of thing. So, you know, just little by slow, it's just been a process, because, you know, I just thought this week, I don't think I ever missed one. A couple of times I was traveling, was on the phone and that sort of thing, but I don't think I've ever missed one. So I've been showing up, and you said that's the thing we just have to do, is just show up, you know. But little by slow, I'm far, how can I say this? I'm far more self-accepting. I've discovered I have choices. I'm compassionate with myself. Things that I just never thought possible. I'm just not this mercurial person who's bouncing around. And I have these little breakthroughs every day. I catch myself saying something snarky that was just, I didn't have to. I find myself defending myself. Before I was oblivious. I was one of those dreaming, I was awake, whatever you said, dreaming, I was asleep, dreaming I was awake. And I just didn't know. I mean, yeah. Amazing. So I think I've started this, okay, and I always thought I was not fixable, you know, so having that approach to things doesn't help. And so I think cracking that third and fourth column just exposed me to who I am, and, you know, and just to accept my humanness. I just said that I'm not perfect. And this whole thing about reality, I am going to continue, because I really just finished the fifth step.
Yeah.
And I want to continue next year, because my goal is to really do the ninth step, to break through my pride,
yeah, and
my fears and all that sort of thing. And this one thing I learned recently, I just want to throw it by you, is that I always wonder, because I do my daily 10th step, and I do my meditation. And one of it, I worry about, what is my willfulness and what is God's will?
Yes.
And someone suggested that your willfulness, my willfulness, is knowing the beginning, the middle, and the end. And with God's will, it's just knowing the beginning. And I get that. I get it. You wanted to, you know, when I'm going into something, like even this, obviously this, I didn't know what the hell I was getting into.
Right.
And not knowing where it was going exactly. I mean, obviously I knew the steps, but not really knowing.
Right. And
so I really think this was God's will. And I catch myself like planning and trying to figure out how it's going to be and controlling in that. And I think, this is me and my willfulness trying to make things. So it was really a ha-ha moment. So yeah, I thank you. This whole idea about being in alignment, I feel lighter, clearer, happier, just okay with being me. It's the beginning of a lovely love relationship.
Well, and that's what I emphasized at the beginning about spirituality. And that is, the synonym is relationship with life, relationship with ourself, and a relationship with other people. And it all happens. It's not like we focus on one and then the other. No. It all happens. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
And so part of the practice then is to try to do this without immediately criticizing my performance.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say is I'm very grateful that I've been able to attend the workshop this year. This has been the combination of the way the workshop has been conducted this year and the way my life has been. This has been really intense from all corners. And this workshop has kind of been one of the anchors for me, if you will, to cope with the intensity of my life.
Yeah.
Um, I still, and at the risk of being the criticism, I still feel like I haven't done enough of the work or whatever, but still maintaining the commitment to show up for this. Um, so just maintaining the commitment to keep showing up for this, the in-depth and the intensity of this, even if I haven't done as much of the work, it still feels like there's been maybe some progress in the thawing, because every once in a while I've made mentions about how the thawing out process, and somewhere along the line I actually noticed where he said it actually did take you 5 years or so for your thawing out, and that's good for me to hear, that it's okay that I'm not getting this all right off the bat in 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I feel like, some people seem to do the one and done in 1 year, and that's, my perfectionist and everything that, I want to. So part of keeping my commitment, deciding my commitment going forward, as I look at that, I've been trying to look at what commitment can I make that's small enough that I can actually do it. What will you do? What can you do? What will you do? Something that's small enough that I can actually do that without getting blocked by the big grand plan, and then I can do the next thing.
Yes.
But I really appreciate what someone who just spoke said about her willfulness versus God's willfulness.
Yes.
About, I need to know the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Right.
God's trying to tell me, no, you just need to know the beginning and do that. And then we'll take the next step when we get there. That's an important thing to learn.
And it is a learning. It's not something that is a light switch. Yeah, it is learning. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's part of the gradual thing too. It's like I'm looking and think, oh, okay, so I've seen this, and now can I get it, please? And that's not the way it works. And the other thing that I've just been beginning to get a little bit of light coming up on, earlier in the year, a few months ago, I started hearing this about self-compassion. I think it came up in the workshop here a little bit. There may have been some conversation about self-compassion and self-hate and stuff. And because I remember, I don't know if I said it in the workshop itself or to fellows of the workshop out in meeting outside of it, that hearing this about self-compassion, I realized that's when people tell me you need to be more self-compassionate. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't recognize the words you're saying. I don't even recognize the language you're saying. This is such a foreign concept. I have no means of grasping it. What does this look like? What does it mean? I have no idea. And it's been starting to come to me in various places. You need to be more self-compassion. This is a thing. It's like, it is. And then I got to hear your conversation, your workshop with Luskin, Forgive for Good.
Yes.
And so I've been hearing that, and a point that kept coming up when he was talking was about the importance of safety as part of the forgiveness process. And so I still didn't quite get that, but I recognize this is important. I need to go back and hear it again. And then recently I got to hear through my work, I got to hear another workshop about self-compassion. It was geared for students, but it was but that presentation about self-compassion was introduced to a psychologist who's been doing empirical research on self-compassion. And so she presented it in the way that doing those things, I'm starting to connect the dots, at least above the neck, understanding why it's important. Right. So I can start seeing it and, okay, maybe this is a language that maybe I can learn. And that both Fred Luskin and this other researcher, Kristen Neff, they've both been saying that the forgiveness and the self-compassion are things that can be taught and that can be learned. feels like a foreign language to me, but I guess that's hope. So part of my commitment going forward, I guess, is to keep looking into the self-compassion stuff and trying to learn a little more about that. I'm not there yet, but a little bit on the way.
Well, but see, the major theme that you're confirming more than once, at least 3 or 4 times, is that the way you assimilate is in small bites and assimilate bit by bit, gradual by gradual. But everything you're saying is that you're making progress and you're introduced to a new concept and you're asking new questions and you're having new experiences and you are able actually to cope, maybe not as well as you want to, but incrementally you are actually improving in your ability to cope.
That's the hope.
Yes. Yeah.
It's frustrating to me. I want it all now and it doesn't work that way and I get frustrated, but yeah, but these things that you're saying, hopefully that's like the lady was saying, little by slow. I like that phrase too.
I love the phrase. It was great. I never heard it before. It's great. Yeah.
Before coming into this workshop, I took a mindfulness self-compassion class, and it was impossible for me to do. I mean, I could do little bits, but it never really sunk in. And this year, after completing steps 5, 6, and 7, I think I was able to have self-compassion.
Mm.
And so that is one way that I have been able to change, or that I have been changed. And then the other thing I just wanted to throw out is I am excited to hear you give the Chinese legend. I've read it before a couple times. I just recently listened to it on the audio track that is online, and it was so emotional for me. And I need to think about it more. Part of it was a fear, I think, of dying. I have been saying, I want to change, please direct my thoughts, all these things, please let me know your will, God. I want to change. But when I hear this story, and I don't know if it's the sadness of part of it, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to shut up and thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my experience with this particular year, at the end of year 4 with you.
Yeah.
I had a real roadblock this year, and all this progress I'd been making kind of felt like it went away, and I stepped away for a little bit. And it was about this breakdown in a sponsor relationship, which was really, really hard for me because I really admired this person, which is an issue. But we had shared I had shared this column 3 and 4 with you and went through it. And I'll just give the quick flip was that I was an unseen sponsee. And I thought my role was a paralyzed sponsee. And after we'd gone through a lot of issues, all my fears and everything that was spoken about, where I kept bringing up the fact that I wasn't prepared, you stopped me and said, how about trying on unprepared sponsee? And so the reason I'm mentioning this in relation to the work and seeing what I need is that I needed to start to see that the key thing was that focusing on how to prepare was the key for me. Learning how to step into that role, because and the humiliation I felt about, I'm powerless to prepare or not to prepare, and trying to explain that to someone who does prepare. So I also realized that having a sponsor who really easily did work and didn't have this issue was actually an issue. And so I started praying. I really am in my morning meditation and nighttime routine. And it was just telling me, you've got to be real gentle there's something you're holding back or was being held back. There was a barrier there. And so I joined the step study group, which is going through the big book line by line. And it's a group of 4 other women, so 5 total. And it's very similar to how you're doing it, but they all have a similar issue. One of the issues is that we all do the work at the last minute, and what it means to be prepared and not doing it the morning of or right before. You write that in what you say. So, but last night I read this column 3 and 4 to another fellow. I had never read it to anyone but you. And what I saw was all of my fears came true, which is all my fears had come true. And then I was able to really have compassion and see my powerlessness, like that I couldn't know what I didn't know. And I don't get to control this journey.
Right.
I am so willing. It's very clear to me that I'm willing, and I am regularly doing step work now daily. And it's 10 minutes, but I have accountability. And so bringing it back is the key thing for me coming into year 5 with you, is that I really focus on attracting, listening for the sponsor that's right for me. But I didn't feel prepared to even step into having the right sponsor until I had sort of practiced how to prepare. I don't know if that makes any sense. So
Sure.
And even speaking now is really uncomfortable because I feel like it's been so long. I should be an expert, but that's one of my character defects, and knowing that you are the exact same age as me and in year 5, I mean, that is very helpful. So can't wait to do it again. Thanks for the ride.
Wonderful. Good. Well, just gently stay pressed up against it. And we've really talked a lot about being present to the present moment now. And you guys have talked about it differently tonight. And that is, it's not about judging it. It's about showing up and doing it. And the word that you used that I've recommended to everybody, but now is special to you, is that we eliminate is should. Right? Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to read this meditation, and you're welcome to just breathe in, breathe out, close your eyes maybe, but listen. It's not about your following reading, unless it helps you to read while I talk. And that some people they learn that way, they experience that way, and that's just fine. Once upon a time, in the heart of the Western Kingdom, lay a beautiful garden, and there in the cool of the day was the master of the garden wont to walk. Of all the denizens of the garden, the most beautiful and the most beloved was a gracious and noble bamboo. Year after year, bamboo grew yet more noble and gracious, conscious of his master's love and watchful delight, but modest and gentle withal. And often, when wind came to revel in the garden, bamboo would cast aside his grave stateliness to dance and play right merrily, tossing and swaying and leaping and bowing in joyous abandon, leading the great dance of the garden, which most delighted the master's heart. Now upon a day, the master himself drew near to contemplate his bamboo with eyes of curious expectancy. And bamboo, in a passion of adoration, bowed his great head to the ground in loving greeting. The master spoke, "Bamboo, bamboo, I would use thee." Bamboo flung his head to the sky in utter delight. The day of days had come, the day for which he had been made, the day in which he had been growing hour by hour, the day in which he would find his completion and his destiny. His voice came low, Master, I am ready. Use me as thou wilt. Bamboo, the master's voice was grave. I would fain take thee and cut thee down. A trembling of a great horror shook Bamboo. Cut me down. Me, whom thou, master, has made the most beautiful in all thy garden, to cut me down? Ah, not that, not that. Use me for thy joy, O master, but cut me not down. Beloved Bamboo, the master's voice grew graver still. If I cut thee not down, I cannot use thee. The garden grew still. Wind held his breath. Bamboo slowly bent his proud and glorious head. There came a whisper, Master, if thou canst not use me, but thou cut me down, then do thy will and cut. Bamboo, beloved Bamboo, I would cut thy leaves and branches from thee also. Master, master, spare me, cut me down and lay my beauty in the dust, but wouldst thou take from me my leaves and branches also? Bamboo, alas, if I cut them not away, I cannot use thee. The sun hid his face. A listening butterfly glided fearfully away, and Bamboo shivered in terrible expectancy, whispering low, Master, cut away. Bamboo, Bamboo, I would yet cleave thee in twain and cut out thine heart, for if I cut not so, I cannot use thee. Then was Bamboo bowed to the ground. Master, master, then cut and cleave. So did the master of the garden take Bamboo and cut him down and hack off his branches and strip off his leaves and cleave them in twain and cut out his heart. And lifting him gently, carried him to where was a spring of fresh sparkling water in the midst of his dry fields. Then putting one end of broken bamboo in the spring and the other end into the water channel in his field, the master laid down gently his beloved Bamboo, and the spring sang welcome. And the clear sparkling waters raced joyously down the channel of Bamboo's torn body into the waiting fields. Then the rice was planted, and the days went by, and the shoots grew, and the harvest came. In that day was Bamboo, once so glorious in his stately beauty, yet more glorious in his brokenness and humility. For in his beauty he was life abundant, but in his brokenness he became a channel of abundant life to his master's world. Please join me in prayer. This is the prayer that talks about the channel. I've changed it a little bit so that at the end, it took out the word eternal and emphasized the word life. Please join me in this prayer that we continue on this path of metamorphosis, of transformation, this path of change. Lord, make me a channel of your peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love. That where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness. That where there is discord, I may bring harmony. That where there is error, I may bring truth. That where there is doubt, I may bring faith. That where there is despair, I may bring hope. That where there are shadows, I may bring light. That where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to life. Amen. So there you are. You're all graduated now. Oh, it's been a wonderful journey. Thank you.